From Mississippi State University in Starkville, Mississippi, this is Taking the Reins podcast. If you love all things horses, get ready for a relatable and educational look into the lives of horses and the people who love them. Now here's our host, Clay Cavinder.
Albuquerque to Canada.
Canada, that's right. And that's what I meant to say, because he adopted literally 2 miles from Ned Point. Like, Ned Point was right there next to that holding facility, and he adopted while I was there. I was there at Ned Point whenever he did that, so I thought that was super weird. And then I had a client that did the exact same thing, except he was from Germany, but he rode all the Americas. He rode from North America all the way down to South America, like the entire way, and then back up with these horses. And that was supposed to be my memorable horse experience, because those horses were so cool. And it was a really similar story to your interview.
Just all those BLM
funny
horses there in
Yeah.
that area. Yeah,
Yeah.
Did you happen to know Parker by chance? Because he would have been.
No, I didn't know him.
He's a little younger than us, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if you ever run into him. He is if people that haven't listened to that episode, that's one of my favorites, just because he's kind of a free spirit, wild man, and
Oh yeah, no, it was great.
it was interesting stuff. But
It is like Dale Brisby. When you compared him to that, that's exactly, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. That's exactly who I thought it.
Dale was the A&M.
And I didn't know that either. I learned that in your podcast. I was like, what?
That's
I did not know that.
I'm trying to think when we met. Were you on the equestrian team when that happened?
Yeah, because I started there. Oh my gosh, when did I start there? In 2002?
Did you, as an undergrad?
Yes, I started at Texas, and then I transferred to A&M.
Okay, so you started A&M 02. I came in 03.
Okay, yeah. So I was definitely on the team then.
Yeah, y'all were still practicing out of Freeman Arena, so that's probably where I came across you. Yeah, I knew it'd been a while. I told Ashley yesterday that we were doing this, and she was excited. She said, "I'm really surprised you got Katie to sit down. She's always going 90-0."
No, this is great. This is like perfect timing.
This is a break for you.
Oh, it is. No, it's fun.
Well,
It's really
I'm glad
fun.
you did this, because, I've thought for years and years, you know the story, but I want people to know kind of how this all came about. I don't even remember what year it was, somewhere 2010, maybe 11.
I think it was, because I think it was when I was still living in Oklahoma. Was I still working for Ned Point?
I think you were, because that's where this all originated from, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I think I was still living in Oklahoma and worked at Ned Point and was still doing this, but it wasn't my company at that point.
That's it. Because I hadn't seen you in a long time. I was standing in line at Bush Airport in Houston.
Yes.
And you walked by, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And to my surprise, you told me you said, "We got, I think it was 14 horses on that flight or something." And there was like 200 people or so on the flight as well. And I was really taken aback. And when you at some point in the flight, you came and got me. It was a 8-9 hour flight.
Yes.
Going to Amsterdam, maybe. And is that where we're going? Houston to Amsterdam?
Yeah.
And you came and got me and took me in the back, and the little trap door, and walked in. There's 14 horses in the back eating hay.
It's crazy, right?
It is. I'm sure it's normal to you, but at that point in time, especially for me, I thought that is so interesting. And
well, that plane is actually part of history. Like, they don't even fly that plane anymore. That plane got decommissioned. Like, you were probably on, I think they just stopped it in, gosh, I guess it was 17 or 18. I guess that route with that plane, they called it a combi that had passengers and horses.
okay, so they don't do that anymore at all.
No, not that airline. No, not that airline.
Wow,
they don't even fly horses anymore. So, and we mostly go Frankfurt now. We don't even do Amsterdam.
Okay, well, this has evolved. I actually got quite a bit intrigued, because I went and sat down. I really couldn't quit thinking about all that. And so actually, long story short, I went back to A&M and created a international course on equine. And first semester had 7 people in it. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was doing. And I'll tell you something extremely funny you don't know. is that a lady from the Animal Transportation Association called me in October of that year, and she had heard, I don't know how, that we had started this class, and this class revolved around USDA regulations and what you do to fly horses and who's flying horses and kind of the exposure to the international, kind of an exposure to international industry. And she called me. She said, "Hey, I'm the chairperson of the ATA, and I would like you to come and be a guest speaker at our national conference in Vancouver."
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
No, I didn't think it was. I didn't think that was a very good idea. So at the time, Katie, I didn't know anything. I was literally learning material on a Monday, and then I'd go teach it on Tuesday.
That's awesome.
And so she says, this isn't until March. Would you do it? And I said, let me think about this. So I hung the phone up. I went, you remember Dennis Sigler? I went and talked to Sigler, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he says, "Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. You're way over your head on that." And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right." So I went right back to my office. I called her back, and I said, "I'll be there."
Of course.
And I went, and it was a phenomenal opportunity. I got to meet a ton of great people, and it was great exposure for what we were doing with the class. But all that started because of our meeting on that flight. And at the end, when I left A&M, there was 55 kids taking that class. They loved it.
That's awesome.
Loved it.
That is so cool. That's so cool.
Well, you were part of that, and I appreciate you always helping, because you took, I don't know if you remember, you took a few of those kids that took that class. You took them on flights, and they had a great time doing that.
That's awesome. We still can do that. We still can do that.
Hey, anytime you need help, I'm sure. That's the bad thing. Being in Mississippi is we're not close to Houston anymore, but at the time at A&M, that was easy.
Yeah. Well, you're not too bad from Dallas, though. I mean, we just fly out of Dallas now. So.
Oh, is it really? You switched then? So just.
Yeah.
Dallas to Frankfurt. Nice. Yeah, let's go back to that Ned Point thing, Katie, because that's what I'm curious about on this podcast. A lot of times I'm trying to kind of give people different ideas, perspectives of the horse business. Give me some ideas of how Equiflight got started, who inspired you to launch, international transport company, and kind of how that whole system evolved.
Yeah, so I would say, horses have been in my life basically since I was 4 years old. And I started with the hunter jumpers, and then I switched over to the reining horses when I was 10. And one of my first, what I call real reiners, one of my really good reiners, I bought from a ranch in Oklahoma called Ned Point. And so we went up there. I think I was, I don't even know how old I was. I guess I was maybe 16, 17. And we went up there and tried some horses. And at the time, I had met both trainers that were working out of there. And I kind of met the owner of the ranch, but she wasn't a horse trainer. She kind of stayed more to the side and was in the office and working. And so we bought the horse, and fast forward a few years later, I ran into her at a wedding shower, and she actually was like, "Hey, I really want you to come work for me in Oklahoma." And I was like, "Work for you? Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not a horse trainer. I don't want to be a horse trainer." And she's like, "No, I need someone to help me manage the transport business." Well, I had no idea back then when we went and looked at the horse that's actually what Ned Point was. I had no clue that she had started an international transport company. And she herself, Irmgard, was from Holland and had moved over to the States because she was flying so many horses back and forth. And she finally was like, "Okay, I'm just going to start my own company in Oklahoma." And so she had been managing it, running it for years, and I think was ready to kind of slow down and have somebody help her and take over. And so long story short, I ended up, I graduated A&M, then I worked for the equestrian team for, I think it was 4 years, and then moved up to Oklahoma and worked for Ned Point. I was up there for about 4 years. And so after the second year, there was, some talks about, okay, maybe I can try to purchase this company and take over. And it just didn't work out, and I really missed Texas. I didn't want to be in Oklahoma anymore. And so I decided, what, I'm just going to do this on my own. So I moved down to Texas and started Equiflight. and it took off, surprisingly. I was fully expecting the first, year or two to kind of build our way up, but it didn't. I mean, it totally exploded. And at the time I was living in Valley View, and I was single and just doing it on my own. And then I met Ryan, and we got married and had 2 kids and moved locations just up the road a few miles. And it's still going today, which is, it's crazy to think. I mean, that was back in 2013 when I started Equiflight. So it's crazy to think it's been going this long. It's flown by.
It's been,
no pun intended.
That's funny that it was successful right out of the gate. I'm sure that getting that experience with Ned Point kind of helped you take it to a different level. But what was the first experience like? What was your first experience like transporting horses internationally? Did you just think right off the bat, hey, this looks like something that I could make a career out of and want to do?
Oh, man, I still remember it like it was yesterday, because it was actually that same flight that you were on with the KLM to Amsterdam, and Emgard took me for the first time. And oh my gosh, I was like a kid in the candy store, because I mean, I love to travel, period. And then I love horses. And the whole time flying over, I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing. This is totally up my alley. And I had never been to Amsterdam before. So we landed, we flew with the horses. That was a crazy experience. Then getting to see that part of the world with her in her home country. I mean, it was awesome. Like, it really was eye-opening and made you realize how connected the world really is with horses. And I was always just kind of in my own little world of the reining horse world, which, really isn't that big. It's getting bigger now, but just horses in general, how people are so connected around the world. It's incredible. I knew right then and there, this was it. Like, somehow I was doing this.
It's funny too that you were in the reining business, because the international exposure for the reining, maybe on the English side it was earlier, but it seems like in the Western world, the reining guys are the ones that really started the global exposure of the Western horse, so to speak.
100%. Yes. 100%. And then it even exploded more, honestly, thanks to Taylor Sheridan and all his exposure with Yellowstone and, all his reality show. I mean, it really has exploded, the reining horse industry.
Yeah, for sure. When you went, there's so much wrapped up in this. I think people listening might think, well, that's really cool. You throw a horse on a plane and then you unload them in a new country. That's really neat. But there's obviously way more things going on there. Can you walk us through kind of some of the processes of flying a horse internationally, even from pickup to landing? You got the USDA quarantine time and all kinds of different things.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, it all really depends on where they're going. So the majority of our horses are going into Europe. And so those restrictions are much different than if we were to send a horse, let's say, to Dubai or South America. So that's the number one thing, is once we get the call, we can get a call from someone overseas. It's like, hey, I just bought a horse in Washington State and I need to get it to France. Can you help me? And that's where we take over, and we basically do everything. So we arrange all the trucking, all the paperwork to cross state lines to get to us in Texas with the seller. And then once the horse gets to us, we work with our accredited vet here to do all the appropriate testing to get the horse to Europe as well. We get all the USDA inspection done here at our facility. We manage all the health papers, get everything ready. And in the meantime, while we're doing all that, I mean, we are hands-on with this horse. So it's not like, we're not a huge company. So it really is just Ryan and I and my kids that I'm trying to raise to take over managing this company. And so we get to know the horse really well. And that's super important as well, too, because it's not like just throwing them on a trailer and saying, okay, see you when you get there. I mean, you forget that it actually could be a very, very dangerous experience. And it's up to us to make sure that horse is ready to go and ready to fly and can handle the new experience that he or she is about to be exposed to, So, and again, like I said, in that week that we've got them, we're turning them in and out. It's not a stressful experience for them here. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, they're isolated and they don't see other horses. No, it's not like that at all. They're basically boarding here for 5 to 7 days, and they're getting turned out every day in baths. And like I said, during that time is when we're managing them, handling them, and going, okay, this horse will be fine. He can stand tied. Everything's going to be okay. Sometimes we'll get some the first day that I'm like, okay, we need to work with this one. It needs to load. It needs to learn how to stand tied. It needs to be patient, So it's definitely catered to each horse's needs, for sure.
Well, I think that would probably be something very attractive to people, is that you put this personal touch into, people are so peculiar about how their horses are handled and taken care of, but having your family wrapped up in it and having that personal touch would be a big 100%. Feather in your cap, I would think.
Yes. It really is. Like some people have always questioned us, like, oh, why haven't you expanded? Why aren't you hiring people? And I don't want to do that. I want to keep it small. There are those big, what I call Walmart-sized companies, but, I don't want people to call and that person go, well, hang on, let me connect you to 3 different people to find out where your horse is. That's not the case. I mean, I'm FaceTiming with people and their horses, like, because I understand it's a big deal, and they're not all, the $500,000 show horses. You'd be surprised. The majority of my horses are what I call heart horses. These people have saved up their whole life. They found a horse online. They didn't even look at it in person, but they're putting all their, chips into this horse. And I love it. I mean, that's all that matters to us, is that they love the horse, we love the horse, and that they bought something that's special to them. So yeah, going back to your original question, I guess, once they get here, then we take them down to DFW and we go straight from our trailer onto the jet stall at the airport. And then it takes about, 2-3 hours to do all the kind of weights and balances. And they got to start loading the plane and getting everything, all the different cargo, not just the horses, loaded properly. And they've got a loading plan. And then they load the horses with a big scissor lift. And I would say, all in all, from the time they leave our facility until we're in the air, it's probably a good 5 hours. That's it.
Wow.
So
it goes quick.
It really does.
Why not? You mentioned Washington. That was your example. For people who are very new to this, why not? Mm-hmm. Like, it makes sense. Like, why would you not just come out of Seattle and go direct?
So there's only certain airports that fly horses out. So there is LAX. There's Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Miami, and New York. And so, a lot of people were like, why don't you just go out of LA? And you certainly can. I think the difference is our people, we are here in Texas. And so I personally try to fly every single flight, or I've got one other groom that I hire. That's it. So between myself and this other person, you're always going to have consistency of who's with your horse the whole time.
You go every flight.
We don't have control. I do, yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. More of the personal touch.
I think so. And to be honest, I mean, LA is more expensive. But, I know people say, oh, well, what about the drive then? And I said, look, I promise, just in those, 5 to 7 to 10 days that we've got your horse, it's worth it. It's worth to pay the drive down to us and get them out of Dallas.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest logistical challenges when you're trying to move horses across borders? We have some of those challenges just here in the States with paperwork. What are some of the bigger challenges going into it? Do you just go into Germany or Europe, or are you going South America and some other places?
So we did do a lot of the Middle East, and it's not too difficult because, we always have to have a receiving agent on the other end. So that receiving agent is kind of the equivalent of me over there. So they know their area of expertise really well. So whenever they land, we work with that person on getting the horse to the final destination. So, Europe obviously is all kind of one big blur when it comes to paperwork. There isn't really a lot of difference in paperwork crossing the European countries because they're all part of the EU. And same for the Middle East as well. I mean, usually when they land in Dubai, the horses are staying in Dubai. They're not going across anywhere else. So that part really isn't too bad. I would say logistically more so it's just weather, and not so much on the other side, but more so on this side. So like if we're trying to put a flight together, let's say for December 15th, and we're working on getting horses down from Seattle or from Montana, you know, if we're on a tight schedule and I've got to have this horse here, let's say 5-6 days before, you know, if they've run into a blizzard, that can definitely affect things and make us have to push the flight out a week if we have to.
And I'm sure with all this, my wheels are kind of spinning here, because I'm thinking if you go on every flight, the number of connections that you have internationally there's probably not many people that have more.
Yeah, you know, I tried, and I do try to stay connected with everybody, because I do find that, like, we don't spend any money in advertising or any of that stuff, because it really is just word of mouth. And I'm a huge, huge believer of word of mouth advertising. So, you know, I always keep saying one day when my kids are older and we can travel a lot more, all of us together, that we'll do like a big European tour and just go around and see all the clients. I think that would be so much fun.
That would be neat. But you know, the other thing too, the personal touch is important, but just knowing you as much as I do, the personality part's got to be it. You're such an easy person to talk to, very personable. That's got to go a long ways with creating a business like that. I'm curious now, once you get in the air, what do you do to ensure safety, health, comfort of these horses during these long flights? Because you can do a lot of stuff at home and prep, but you put the pedal to the metal when you're 2 miles, 3 miles up in the air. That's a different story.
For sure. Well, and like we pay attention from the time we leave our place. So like, I'll know if we've loaded one in the jet stall, and even just there at the tarmac, if we start seeing any sign of stress or just uncomfortableness, you know, Ryan and I will look at the horse, and USDA is always there as well too. And we've got the means to sedate if we need to. But honestly, that rarely happens. It really doesn't. And so it's mainly just monitoring and getting to know and seeing the horse and seeing, okay, is this normal? And because they fly with 2 other horses in there with them, they actually are fine. I mean, it's crazy. And even if you've got one that's younger, that does get a little more nervous, because there's flashing lights, there's loud bangs, there's sounds, you know, just in a warehouse. You'd be surprised at how they really take comfort in the other 2 horses with them. And I usually will try to pair them up personality wise too, you know, while they're here at our place. So they kind of bond with their flight mate is what I call them. So, but if we are in the air and we do start to see any sign of stress or colic, which again, rarely happens, we do have medication that we can give them that will sedate them for the rest of the flight. Which goes by very fast, actually, very fast.
What percent of the horses do you think that have to have some type of intervention like that? It seems to me like that once you get cruising, they'd be fine, but on that takeoff and especially the jarring of the landing would be a little more problematic.
You know, I would say, gosh, maybe 1 out of every 200 horses, maybe, that we've had to actually give some Democedan to. Otherwise, they really are good. And I actually compare, like, the takeoff and landing is really no different than if you're driving on the road and literally you've got to stop and you just slam your brake and they brace themselves. And then it's like they just stand up and they're like, okay, you know, they don't panic. They really don't panic. And I even same with like turbulence, because halfway across, whenever we get to that certain part, you know, across the north, there's always about 5 minutes in turbulence. And even through that, they handle it so well, because to them, they're thinking it's just a rough road.
Yeah. And people aren't handling it, but the horses can. And that, it is kind of surprising how temperamental horses can be. Have you ever noticed, I'm just curious, if there any, you know, every breed has its purpose in terms of what they're most they can do the best, or whatever you want to, however you want to say it. Do you think any of those horses, breed wise, are better flyers than others, or they all just kind of take it as it comes?
I would say, I mean, I'm partial to quarter horses, but I do think the quarter horses mentality is just so much more stoic. And actually, to be honest, even, I mean, the paints, the quarters, they fly really well. And even some of the Mustangs, if they're handled, they also are very stoic and handle it. the breeds that are definitely more temperamental and sensitive, I would say, are the Arabians. They definitely are more flighty and are known to just constantly throw their head up and just very dramatic. But safety wise, they're good as well. They just express themselves a lot differently than the quarter horses do.
Even non-flights.
Sure. Right.
Have you ever had a situation that went kind of haywire and you thought, what in the world are we going to do here? And
I would
made
say
you nervous, maybe?
A lot of the times we'll figure that out here. So like if we had a Mustang once here that even just in the stocks would just jump out. I mean, there was nothing you could do. You try to tie him down. You try to teach him to stand tied and just have patience. And I mean, no matter what, he was jumping out. And, you know, that's actually probably the only horse I've ever rejected from a flight, because I said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk it. Otherwise, we've had some that will panic every once in a while, or some that get, you know, bored and they just get impatient and they start pawing, and, you know, so you're standing back there with them for a good, you know, 3-4 hours of the whole 9-hour flight, because you're like, all right, come on, it's fine. You know, sometimes you have to babysit them. And those are usually the ones that you'll give a little sedation to just knock that edge off and make sure they stand safely. So
you had one that on the ground at home, you thought, I'm not going in the air with that one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What did they do? The owners wanted, how'd they get him across?
I'm not really sure what they did. I told them they needed to just remove the horse off the property. I'm sure they weren't very happy, but, you know, I'm just not willing to put my other horses and me or my groom in jeopardy, of flying. And I don't know if that horse ended up flying or not, but just in the time that we had, there was no way. But sometimes I know, like, with that horse personally, I feel like that horse was never going to be able to fly, in my opinion. Like, no matter how much work you did with it, it just was never going to be one that would fly. That does not happen often at all.
Again, that personal touch, I think that's smart, thinking about the other horses on the fly, because on average, how many ship at a time?
You know, it really just ranges. I mean, we go as small as 3 up to probably 18, I'd say, at a time. So, and again, it just depends on the season, where we're at. If there's a lot of sales going on, you know, that's usually when we get the bigger flights. Business
picks up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. With all we were talking about laws a little while ago, or paperwork, stuff like that, you know, governments change so frequently. Mm-hmm. How do you stay on top of that? Is there a system in place that you kind of keep up on paperwork? Because the last thing you want to do is get to a country and not have a piece of paperwork.
Exactly. So, I mean, they do have a website that we follow, but we've got a great connection with our USDA folks around here. And so they're always one to give us a heads up, like, hey, heads up, you know, EU's changing their policy, be aware. And same with the receiving agent on the other end. That's his job as well, too, to kind of help everybody stay current with all the requirements. So, it's a pretty good team.
Yeah, I went to Australia one time to judge a horse show, and I was young. I didn't really think much about it. I thought you just got on the plane and went. I got to Australia, and you had to have a work. They call it a work permit or something like that to come into the country. I didn't have that, so that put a little kink in the trip. I hate to have that with 14 horses or whatever you got. Right,
yeah.
You mentioned.
No, luckily we just go and come back. Like, I don't even have to have a visa to go over there.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Now, do you get when you get there? Do you get off the plane and go to town, or do you just stay in the airport and turn around? Or
I go straight to the hotel and I shower because we're filthy, and then I sleep for a few hours, and then we fly home. Like 8 hours later, probably.
Oh, it's quick then.
Yeah. It's a real quick.
And then putting the personal side of it, I didn't really think about it because I haven't been in your world for 10, 12 years, but trying to be a mom and take care of young kids going to school, and you're having to fly back and forth, puts a lot of stress on the family, I'm sure.
It does. It really does. And that's, I think, why I try not. I mean, if I didn't have kids or husband, I could take a day or so and go tour around, but we just can't do that. And fortunately, Ryan, he's such a great partner in all of this, husband and business wise. You know, he's got it all under control pretty good, but I know the kids are happy when I get home.
They all want mom.
For sure, yeah.
Well, you were
sure.
mentioning Taylor Sheridan earlier, and it kind of made me think about the types of horses that you're transporting. Do you have any that, and this could be a famous horse that you transported that was memorable, or it could just be, like you said before, people are transporting probably their pets, you know, and those horses are just as important, especially to the owner. Do you have unique horses in your mind that you thought about or connected with, or thought that's really cool that we're transporting this famous horse or whatnot?
Oh, for sure. There are so many, actually. I mean, most recently with the Run for the Million of Taylor Sheridan, we brought that horse over to compete, Arno and his horse, Flexing Guns in Town. And that was such an incredible experience. I mean, coming this way into the States just for a competition when you've got a stallion, it's a big ordeal, because if you're not going to undergo the 30-day quarantine, which, you know, he's obviously not going to do that because he's in training and he needs to just come over and show. There's a lot more steps that we have to. I mean, we were working for months in advance just with the USDA to get that approved for this horse to come over and show at that event. And we had to get facilities approved. We had to get vets approved. We had to get schedules. That horse basically, because of the CEM, the contagious equine meningitis, you probably know way more about that disease than I even do, but we are free of that in this country and Europe is not. And so they basically are treating this horse as if he is positive for it, even though we've tested him over there and he's not, but they still are treating him as if he does have it. And so the biggest thing is he's got to stay isolated while being stabled. He obviously can't breed anything, which, okay, you know, that's the goal. We're not going to let any horse breed when he's coming over to show. Right. And so that was a really a big task, and I'm just so happy that it all went perfectly. And then the fact that he won the whole thing was just icing on the cake, because there were so many steps in that journey that one little thing could have gone wrong just with the schedule or everything. If anything got held up, he would have missed the entire show and missed everything. And that's a very, very big investment to bring that horse over. And like I said, the fact that he won $500,000 after it made it even more worthwhile for them. But so that was probably one of the coolest, most famous horses that we've sent over.
You probably didn't sleep much on that, because that's on your shoulders.
No, yes. For 2 months up until then, there was a lot of stress. I got my hair colored a lot, let's just say. It was a lot, but it was worth it. I mean, it really was worth it. Gosh, but memorable horses. I mean, some of them were the older horses. We've done a lot of family moves, you know, people that were either from the States and moving over to Europe because of military or whatever. And of course, they've got their dogs and cats, because we ship dogs and cats too. And with all their horses, we had one lady recently that retired from the States and decided to retire and move to France, and happened to take 19 of her cats. I was like, okay. Wow. We got this. So that was definitely a memorable experience, one that I've never had before with that many cats.
Did you have to house each one of them individually, or just?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We had, I mean, Ryan, you'll have to ask him that.
You got Ryan really to go on the cat mission?
Oh, yeah. We had to rent a van, and, you know, he was driving all 19 cats, meowing and hissing and to the airport. It was hilarious. So that was definitely memorable. We just had a lot of great people, you know, a lot of moves, a lot of Europeans that moved here and are moving back to Europe with their horses and family and animals. And there's just been so many, you know, it's hard to really pinpoint the top 5.
Well, I didn't know you did cats and dogs. That's, that makes sense, but.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We never planned on it, but it just kind of happened. It's one of those things, I think, when people have horses, you know, they have small animals too. And so it all kind of started with, you know, hey, well, you think you could fly my dog too? And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, let's do it. And then it just took off.
Well, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship and people who are successful. I love the fact, and I'm learning this more and more. I do this podcast because this topic keeps coming up, like entrepreneurship and kind of creating your own thing, creating yourself as a business person. And most of the people that I talk to that are successful, they create their own opportunities, but they also are risk averse. They're not scared to take a chance, and so they do something different, and it works out being unique. And I think that's what you did. Working for Ned Point and going on your own and doing this, and now adapting to other opportunities for growth. And that kind of leads me to my next question with you is, how has Equiflight grown or changed over the years? Obviously, transporting different animals is one of those answers, but where do you think it's going to go in the future? Do you have any ideas about how you want it to? And don't get me wrong, I think that changing is not always good, but we also got to be adaptable. Do you see some of that with your own business, or are you happy and content where you're at currently?
I do. I think that it really is important for anybody in any business or in life, really. You've just got to learn to pivot whenever something comes up. And so, like the rest of the world, when COVID hit, it first hit us like, okay, what's going to happen? Are we still going to fly horses? And this was our number one source of income. But luckily, our business increased during COVID because nobody was traveling, but you were still able to buy horses. And so what I felt was a lot of people were, obviously not going on vacation, spending money that way, but they could still buy horses. And so we started offering specials and rates, to try to help everybody continue to move horses and obviously keep our doors open because we didn't know what was going to happen. But business-wise, I do feel, it could ebb and flows. There's some slow months, there's some great months. I still can't even believe that Equiflight has been going as long as it has. And I think doing these other ventures with the dogs and the cats and these, what I call special projects, like the world tours with these horses, it really keeps it fun and keeps us on our toes. And I've kind of dabbled in the real estate now because a lot of these people that are moving back and forth are needing, we went and we would look at ranches for them. And then I thought, what the heck am I doing? Why don't I have my license? Like I could sell these ranches to these people, And so I think as long as everyone just keeps pivoting and going with the times and not giving up, I think it works, And I honestly, my goal is to keep Equiflight open. So Ross and I don't feel as that excited about horses, but Cameron, it's bred in her. She's not going anywhere, whether we try to or not, when it comes to horses. So my goal is to keep Equiflight open to where she can take over and, mom and dad can retire. Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah. So
what if you're talking to your future kid about creating or, taking over, or maybe a new student, like I deal with a lot of students, what are some points of advice you give someone who may want to step off into the international side of the horse business or business creation? That's the thing. I think this because you went to school and you saw the animal science arena as far as academia goes, or whatever you pick. It could be business or whatever. Academics get stuck in this hole that I'm going to do this and I have to do this, and they don't sometimes branch out. And again, this whole podcast we're talking about, I'll be honest with you, at 30, I was probably 35 when this came about, when I went on that flight with you. That was my first epiphany to how big the opportunities are for so many different things. What advice would you give someone who may be 20 years old and got this mindset? We see so many of them that like, I'm going to be a vet.
No, for sure.
But a lot of times they don't know what other opportunities are out there. What advice would you have for them?
Oh my gosh, I would just say, always be open. And my dad used to always say, if you see an opportunity, take it, and even if it doesn't work out, that's fine. You're always going to have learned something from it, because along the way, sometimes you do have bad experiences with jobs or whatever, but no matter what, you're always learning something that you can put forth. I say, just be super open-minded. Look outside your comfort zone. It's okay to be uncomfortable, and don't ever, stray away from who you are, because ultimately, I think it comes down to, like we talked about before, it's just the personal connection, because we're all human beings. And I think no matter what, if you're a genuine, honest, kind person, you're going to be successful in life no matter what you do, big or small.
That's good. Ron did a good job of picking a helper and a mate, and He did a good job.
Likewise.
And, I don't know if you know this, but his mother is over in my neck of the woods now.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
She was I think she was in West Point, maybe in Alabama, coming back and forth Alabama, but it's a small world. Katie, that's all I've got for you. I appreciate so much that you took time out of your busy day to do that. I know that you are busy, but this is such a great thing and exposure for our horse business to think about different things, and so I'm glad to have had the opportunity to talk to you about it.
Well, I just appreciate you even asking me. So
yeah, good stuff. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us on Taking the Reins. A special thank you goes to the Mississippi State Extension Service and the MSU Animal and Dairy Sciences Department. Please visit us on Facebook and Instagram at Taking the Reins Podcast.